Thank you, Jill. We're all set.
Okay. Thank you, Megan, for the opportunity to say a few words here and share some caregiving resources with guests at this event. My name is Jill, and I am a volunteer with AARP. Here at AARP New Hampshire, we are focused on the health, financial security, and social connections critical to the well-being of people ages 50 plus in the Granite State. We carry out our work through targeted advocacy at the state and federal levels, compelling engagement of the 50 plus community statewide, and serving as a trusted resource for information for our members and for the public. I want to welcome you to this virtual gathering where whether you are a new caregiver or an experienced caregiver, many of us who are not now caregivers, although I am one too, will become one with life's unexpected events. We want to be sure all of you are aware of the many resources available at AARP for caregivers that provide helpful information, articles, stories, and virtual offerings, and opportunities to connect with others. A helpful guide called Prepare to Care can be found at this site and is available in multiple languages and also for specific audiences such as veterans and the LGBTQ plus community. And here is the link. It is https www.aarp.org/caregiving. And I think that that's going to be in the chat as well. It is very important that caregivers also make time to care for themselves. We are so glad that you're joining us tonight and allowing yourself to take a break and enjoy a fun activity. AARP is here to support you, and we hope you enjoy tonight's Creative Night In. In just a minute, I will begin, I guess it's already started, recording this event, and it will be available in a few days at https://www.youtube.com/@AARPNH1. And I think that's going to be in the chat too. I ask that you also mute yourselves so that we can hear Megan and her instructions. If you have a question, that's a good thing to do, is to put that in the chat, and we will be addressing those questions periodically throughout the evening. So without further delay, Megan, back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jill. I definitely encourage folks, if you're not already familiar with the AARP resources that were listed in the chat that Jill shared, I encourage you to check those out. There is robust information and robust resourcing on a variety of subject matters that she shared that are available within that space. It's just great to have those bookmarked. It's great to know that those are available for you if you need them. She also mentioned that the recording for the class will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. That's where all the recordings are for all these types of events. So you can access all those things there. So that's always a good thing to have bookmarked on your computer as well. But I want to thank you, Jill and Mary, for having me. My name is Megan Van Wart. For anyone that's new here and hasn't participated in any of our creative events, I'm so glad that you're here. If you're nervous and you haven't painted before or in a long time, our classes are kept very simple and approachable. We are here to be ourselves, and I'll remind you to not be too critical of your work. We're here to smile and try something new and play with blending colors and all these fun things. So for these classes, you're always welcome to use whatever painting supplies you have. You'll be just fine no matter what, I promise you that. Tonight, I will be using acrylic paints. I usually just have the basic primary colors of red and yellow and blue, and I have black and white to lighten colors and to darken things as well, right? To create different shades. So whether you have, basic 5 or 6 colors, or you have one of those fancy sets, that's fine too. You'll be in good shape because I'll teach you throughout tonight's class on how to blend and create different tones and hues based on the basic colors that we all have. a few of the basic setup supplies. You'll need something to paint on. So I'm painting on acrylic paper tonight. You can paint on canvas, paper. Geez, you could even paint on wood or rocks in these classes. You do what you want to do, right? It's all for fun. I have an array of really basic, simple craft brushes. I have small to large. My largest is only like a 1/2 inch, so no problem there, but you use whatever brushes you have and you'll be just fine. I do have a pencil for sketching. Sometimes when you are painting certain objects or you're making a horizon line, sometimes it's good to sketch those things in advance. We're doing a sailboat on a beautiful scene tonight. Now, we're not sketching our sailboat right now, but if you wanted to have a pencil or a straight edge, a ruler, to do some of those straight lines, we'll do that after we do our background. Okay, so the first part of the class will be doing our full background, and then the second part of the class will be doing our sailboat. Okay, and we'll keep it nice and simple. We won't go too detailed. Everyone in these classes has different levels of skill or experience in painting, so I try to keep it easy, but I'd like to offer like level 2 tips here and there for you to consider, hey, what might I want to add or consider to bump your skills or to try something new. So in addition to paint brushes, something to paint on, a ruler and a pencil, I have a paper plate for mixing colors. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to use the chat window. We have different moderators that can help with those questions. So feel free to post any questions you have in the chat. I also have those acrylic paints, and that's pretty much it. The other thing I have is a paper towel for any messes. Okay. But that's it. So we'll go ahead and jump in and get started. Again, a warm welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm based in Vermont. Usually folks join these classes from all over the country, which is so fun. Welcome from wherever you are. And I'm so glad that you're here. One of the first things that we're going to do as an artist tonight is, you can see in the inspiration here, which I'll actually drop in the chat window as well. Let's see here. So in the chat window, I'm uploading a digital version of the inspiration for you to take a peek at. I know some people like that. So that's available for you there. But we're going to do the horizon line. And as I look at the horizon line, this is where the sky meets the water, really in the middle. And if you look at the composition, it's not quite halfway, it's below halfway. That means there's more sky to this picture than there is water. So I'm not going to use my ruler because some people may not have a ruler, but I'm going to find maybe where the middle is using my eye. Maybe the middle is about here. I'm going to come just down a little bit, and maybe you can use your pencil to kind of find your mark. You can always grab a paintbrush, look at that, to kind of say, where do I want my sky to be and where do I want my water to be? And then I'm just going to use my pencil and just do a rough line. Does not have to be straight. Just to say, hey, Megan, above this line is going to be my sky, and below this line, and my line is right here. It's fairly faint pencil, but my line is right about there. Make it a little darker for you all. Mine is not straight, by the way. Doesn't need to be. It's okay. So we're going to jump in and get started. So we're going to focus on the sky first. And as we look at the inspiration, we're going to have beautiful blues on the tops and the bottoms. And our blues are going to fade down into pinks and then reds and oranges. So right where this horizon line is, it's going to be punchy yellow and oranges, that brightness, that sun setting or sun rising, whatever you want this picture to be. And we're going to basically do the sky first, and then we're going to reflect that down on the bottom half. Okay. So maybe we do the blues at the same time on the top and bottom. We can go as we need to there. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a nice blue color. Now this is like a royal blue. So I'm just putting some of that here. And we don't have to use these bright blues out of the gate. So this is a little bit more bright blue in person. On the camera, it looks a little funny. And then I'm going to put a little bit of white paint as well on my plate. So we are going to have a darker blue and a lighter blue. And the darker blue is going to be up high, and the lighter blue is going to transition down into those pinks and reds. So I have a little bit of white and I have a little bit of blue. And I'm going to go ahead and grab one of the biggest brushes I have. I'm getting it a little bit wet in my water cup. And I'm going to find a blue that I like, that I want to put in the top part of that sky. So one of the things in these classes is I love holding the space for everyone to kind of find colors that they like. So I'm mixing a little bit of blue and white together just to find that first top part of blue. I'll bring this a little closer so you can see it's coming up with a really nice color. I'm kind of bringing the blue down. I'm bringing a little bit of white over, and I'm using the space in between these two colors to mix and find that right color. And this is where we have to all hold a little bit of patience in these classes to find that right color. That's a really beautiful color. And I'm making enough of it so I don't run out. That's always a trick too, right? If you've taken these classes or even painted, you're like, I can't run out of this custom color. So I'm making just enough of it. I'm making about a quarter's worth. I'm just going to mix a little bit more white in. Now this is going to be my darker blue. I'm going to add white to this as a second tone after, but we're going to get this down first. And if you want to use different colors that are not in the inspiration, I always want you to follow your intuition in these classes. So you're welcome to break the rules and do your own thing, always. So now that I've made that custom color, I'm going to do nice, smooth, horizontal brush strokes. And this blue is going to be the top 3 inches or so. And you cannot do anything wrong here. Try doing long, smooth brush strokes from the left to the right side of the picture. So tonight I'm painting on, I think this might be 9 by 12. Usually in these classes, I paint on 11 by 14 size. And if I'm going a little fast, I'll try to slow down, but everyone's going to paint at different speeds. So just take your time. Now I'm going to have blue here, but I'm going to start to soften it. So one way you could soften the blue, kind of transition it down into a lighter blue, is I could dip my brush in water and kind of create a lighter opacity and just bring it down and just do some blending with water. If you don't want to use water to soften the bottom, you can use white paint. So either works. Let's see, I'm slowly fading down from a darker blue to a lighter blue. And I'm using my brush nice and slowly. This is the relaxing part, if you allow yourself to get there. Just to glide back and forth, nice and slow, from the left to the right. Now, if I wanted to take a little bit of white and just kind of soften this, I could do a little bit of white and just bring a little bit of white in and soften that right on top. That's okay too. To kind of create that lighter blue blend. You can see that helped the transition a little bit. I just put a little bit of white paint, look at that, on the tip of this brush, very little. And with a really soft hand, you can glide back and forth. And you can kind of do those horizontal brush strokes and work your way up. If you wanted to put a little tiny bit of water on the end of your brush, you can move that paint around. So we're transitioning from a blue to a lighter blue. And we're going to come down about halfway. You can also kind of use your paint colors here to create a lighter blue too. So again, you can use white to create a lighter blue, or you could use water. And you could do a combination of both. It doesn't matter. But you want to end with like a watery blue. See how this is nice and watery? Nice and soft. We're going to blend and transition our pinks and those brighter colors into this. So experiment, have some fun here. Don't forget to smile. You're having fun. I'll try to encourage you to relax and just try some new things along the way. You can see I have just a subtle blue to light blue. And since we have blues here, and if you're still working on that, that's no problem. I'm gonna do the same thing up here down at the bottom because we're reflecting the water. This is the reflection of the sky on the water. So I'm gonna do the same thing that I did the top on the bottom. And I'm only gonna go about halfway with my light blue again. So this is the space for the water reflection. I'm only gonna go to light blue about halfway. And I want it to start fading halfway. So if you want it to be more darker blue, if you want it to be more lighter blue, you can make those choices. So we all just kind of take our time, figure out what colors we want to use. Maybe I dip my brush in a little bit of water. Those nice, smooth, gliding brush strokes are really helpful. Try not to do those piecey brush strokes. If you want to, you can for texture. That's absolutely fine. But if you're getting lots of brush strokes, try keeping your brush right on your canvas. And go from one side to the other. And what we're looking for again is that darker blue to lighter blue transition. And you can see I have some of that. And I achieved this lighter blue by I have a little bit of the light blue paint, just a little bit right here. See that? And I'm not using hardly any of this paint at all. You can dip your brush in a little bit of water to help with that glide. Now everybody's painting on different things too, so I'll acknowledge that. But hold this white space here for all those other colors. You can take a deep breath through your nose and exhale through your mouth. That's a nice way to settle in. Tell yourself you got this. If you're painting with someone tonight, you can say, hey, you're doing a great job. It's always good to have that support. You can tell yourself that too. But I love painting skies. It's so relaxing. Again, I want to make sure you have a soft light blue transition. So if you don't have that soft light blue transition, let's work to getting that. We're going to spend just a couple more minutes on the blue, and then we're going to transition into the pinks and the reds. I'll try to keep us on time here tonight. Now, a lot of people in these classes, as you're working on the blues, some people will keep working on these after the class. Sometimes you may work on it, after the class keeps going. You can do that too, no big deal. So just go as fast or as slow as you wish here. But I have lots of extra paint, right? So you don't need much paint at all. I'm also using a smaller canvas tonight too. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush off, and I'm going to slowly transition us to our pinks and our oranges. So we're going to shift to using red next. I have a crimson red here. I also have like a cherry red in my paint container. I'll just take a little bit of this crimson out and see how this goes. I think by adding white to my crimson, I should get the pinks I need. But it's just about experimenting, right? Everybody has different colors. So I'm going for like a light pink. So I do have white paint right here. You can't really see it on my plate very well. Oh, there it is. I'm not lying. You can kind of take a dollop of this white paint and put it over here near your red. And I'm going to take a tiny speck of this red, like a little of this is going to go a long way. And I'm going to make a pink. You're not going to bring the white into the red. You're going to bring the red into the pink. Or sorry, into the white. So you can manage how dark this gets, how this pigment changes. And I have like a nice soft pink forming. That's great. You can make this as bold as you wish, but I'm going soft initially because I'm going to bring in some reds in other areas. So I have like a bubblegum pink. This is just what I'm using for our next transitional color. And there should be enough there. I like using my brush to kind of mix it around in this little area. And we're going to go ahead and just start to bring in some of this pink. I'm doing it below the light blue to get started. And I can come almost down all the way. So I'm having some fun with how I'm applying this. You can see I'm kind of doing some left, right, kind of side to side. I'm doing that just for like fun texture. You can do it any way that you want. We're going to put a lot more colors in here, but this is going to be kind of a background color for this area. And we'll transition this pink up into the light blue. So I applied this light pink below that light blue area, because what we're gonna do is, and I'm just gonna put a little water on my brush. You can use the light pink and you can slowly bring it up into the light blue. So you could use a little water. I'm just gonna slowly bring it up and into the light blue. And you can do some soft brush strokes. You can make it piecey if you want. Any way that you want to play with transitioning those layers is totally up to you. You want to kind of make it look like a cloud. I'm using the flat side of this brush, so there's a skinny side. I'm holding the skinny side down and I'm kind of going left, right to kind of create some kind of fun cloud-like texture. Now you can see it's a little shiny because it's wet on my canvas. But when that dries, I'll have just a little bit of texture. And I can just bring this down a little bit towards the line. We're going to be bringing in other oranges and colors on top of this, but this is just kind of a base coat for our sky. If you wanted to bring the pink up a little higher and do some like cotton candy clouds, you could, which is always really fun. You can see I just put a little bit of the pink clouds kind of coming in up here. Totally optional. I love to experiment in these classes and just do a few different things here and there. So you can barely see my little pink cotton candy clouds. They're not there intentionally, but here, I'll just do them a little darker so you can see. It's kind of fun to add in some pink cotton candy clouds. It's one of those showstoppers when this sunsets or sunrises give us those beautiful colors. We're just always in awe. It also kind of helps bring the pink up a little bit too. So I'm just going to bring in, I put some pink up here. I'm just going to bring in a little bit of the pink down here for the transition on the water. There's lots of colors. We'll be doing lots of layering too. So we'll keep it simple, but the more colors we add, the more depth and the more character our picture will have. So I always like to make sure that we're doing just enough, but we're not overcomplicating it. And with acrylic painting, if you've done these classes before, you know that we like layer different paints on top of one another. So what we're painting right now, this is not the end all be all. I know the light is bright. Let me see if I can turn the light down a little bit. Let's see if I can adjust this. I have a window next to me, which is kind of messing with my light right now, so I apologize. Let me see if I can tilt this a little bit. Let's see. Let me see if I turn this light off. That's a little bit better. There's a big window, right? Let me see if keep adding that pink in. Let me see if I can change the lights here behind me. That might be a little bit better. You can see the pink a little bit more. I'll play with the lights here for everyone. There you go. You can see that a little bit better now. So funny. One light versus another. So you can definitely see the pink now. There we go. So I'm just bringing in a little pink down here. But what I was saying was that we layer lots of colors in. So that pink for me is just a base color that's going to be under everything else. So then I want you to keep being playful here. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do all the base colors, and then we'll add in different characters and features. Like we'll add in some clouds, and then we'll add in some more colorful clouds. But let's get some of this other main space filled in. And you can consider using, maybe we'll get in some of our yellows next to hold like where the sun is coming up. That might be a good idea. So once you have your pink in, go ahead and clean off your brush. I was still using that bigger brush, but at any point during this class, kind of look and see what brushes you have and change your brush sizes if you need to. I will tell you what I'll be using when and where. I'll be changing my brushes as we get into some of the smaller details. But I'm going to use the same kind of 1/2-inch flat tip brush for right now. And this is what that brush looks like. Very basic. But I'm going to grab my yellow and we're going to hold space for that bright part. That's really important, and kind of where your sun's coming up. In the inspiration, the composition itself, it has the sun over here on the right, maybe where my finger is, and then the big sailboat's kind of over here on the left. You can pick and choose where you want your sun to be. But I'm going to do mine over here more aligned to the right side, and my boat will be on the left. So there's balance. So I'm going to put a dot of yellow right here on my plate. And this is a medium yellow. sunshine yellow, any kind of yellow. You can use any colors you have. And I might grab like a little bit of a smaller brush just to apply this. I have this small flat tip. I'm gonna get this brush a little bit wet, and I'm just gonna say, well, where do I want my sun to be? And this is just, I'm letting my pinks dry. Nothing's done, nothing's perfect, no big deal. I'm gonna just do a little bit of an area of where I want my sun to be. So I could paint a little fake sun if I wanted to, that's fine. And then anywhere I want there to be some brightness, I'm gonna take, I just painted a little sun. That's just all I did. It's a kind of like a half sun coming up over the water. So there's that. Very, very complicated. You all can do that. I'm gonna take a little bit of white. I'm gonna make a lighter yellow. This is kind of a canary yellow. Just a little bit. I'll bring this a little closer. The lighting is super funky. There we go. It's just like a lighter yellow. And I'm gonna slowly kind of use this to hold space for where I want my brightness to be. And I'm doing a very specific, like horizontal brush strokes, just to kind of hold space for my brightness. So I'm going around, I can kind of do a loop around my sun to hold the bright part, but I'm kind of, see, I'm doing some kind of horizontal, kind of scratchy brush strokes going outwards. I'm kind of doing some like horizontal flicking out to the left and the right to hold space. Okay, let me get my light back down here. Nope, that doesn't look very good. Okay, let me turn on this one. So, move this over a little bit. There we go. So now that I have this yellow and I'm doing this flicking, I'm going up just a little bit. I'm going to bring in some oranges and things up here, but if you wanted to bring this up just a little here, you could. But more importantly, you can do some of the reflection below. So I'm doing horizontal kind of scratchy brush strokes just to kind of hold space for the water reflection. So it's wider on top, and then it gets a little bit more narrow on the water. See that? So we're holding space for where our water reflection is going to be. And we can bring in our oranges and our reds around it. Now I have a pencil line in here, which I can come in and erase a little bit. If you have pencil line, you can erase, you can do a soft erase right now. This is all for fun for me, so I'm not going to be selling this by any means, but just getting in some of this yellow will hold space. It's easier to put the yellow in now on top of this white versus trying to kind of create a brighter area after. So I have a nice bright spot on my picture for the sun. And this is where we can have fun and we can transition to bringing in oranges and reds. So all we've done so far is we've added the blues on the top and the bottom, right, for the sky and for the water reflection. And this is where our picture is really starting to come to life. I can start to see this horizon line in the distance. I can see the bubblegum pinks in the skies. I have the water reflection, which is from the sky itself, which is really quite pretty. So my imagination is starting to go. Let's bring in some more contrasting colors. So some darker contrasting colors. And we'll do that with our orange next. So I did a very basic kind of holding the space for the yellows and the pinks. We're going to bring in an orange next. So I grabbed a little dollop of the red, which was over here. I'm going to bring it over here. Now to make orange, it's very little red into yellow. So I'm taking a small dollop of red and I'm bringing it into some of the yellow. And you're going to find an orange that you like. Now in this inspiration, as we're all blending or having fun, oh, and I'll definitely repost the inspiration in the chat window. There we go. So you can have like an orange, Florida orange, and then you can have a blood orange if you want as a secondary accent color. I'm starting with like a Florida orange color. Makes me think of freshly squeezed orange juice that my grandmother used to make for me when we used to visit her in Florida. It was the best. I can't believe she made me fresh squeezed orange juice. It just blows me away. I'm so grateful now. I'm like, oh, fresh squeezed orange juice sounds like a dream. All right, but I'm making that orange color first. And I'm going to take that and I'm just going to start to bring it in into certain areas. So it's up to you on how much orange you might want to bring in. I'm gonna bring it over and just use your eye. I'm gonna bring in a little bit here and a little bit there. Everybody has your own style, and you can make this as, and I'm using a really soft hand, but I'm kind of outlining some of the yellow, and I'm going really softly, really gently. I'm holding the brush a little further back, and I'm kind of dancing and just kind of smudging with a soft touch to bring in this orange, just kind of curtaining this yellow. And this is just going to start to complement. I'm just kind of dancing around. And I'm doing left, right, kind of horizontal, scratchy brush strokes. And you can decide how much you want and where you want to put it. If you want to put a little bit of water on your brush, this is where it gets really magical. Blending is a really tricky thing. And if you've taken these classes before, if you've painted, you know that. But by putting a little bit of water on the tip of your brush, it can soften the whole process for you. It can soften the color pigment. It can help you blend in from one color to another. So my technique right now is just kind of a little bit of water, a little bit of this orange paint. Maybe I'll start to do like a few kind of clouds kind of coming in here. These kind of have a little bit of an angle, like they're coming in from up top. Maybe there's a little bit of a cloud angle here. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing, but I'm just kind of showing you different ways of kind of bringing this to life. We're going to bring in some more pinks and whites and stuff too, but this is just a little bit of like orange cloud cover. I'm using a little bit of water to kind of help blend in. I really don't want to lose sight of the pink, so I'm being really thoughtful of just doing a little bit of the orange. I'm softening the bottom of these orange kind of line like clouds with a little water, so it just softens it a little bit. Again, this is my imagination. Take it as you wish. You don't have to do these clouds that I'm doing if you don't want to. But I'm just getting some orange in here to start to transition. Now I am going back and putting a little water on my brush, and I can bring in this orange, not with orange paint, but with like orange water on my brush into the yellow to help with that transition. I think this technique is going to be helpful for a lot of you. I know how tricky blending can be if you haven't done it before, if you haven't done it in a while. So having a little bit of water on your brush with a little bit of the orange paint can really help make it look less dramatic of an edge. But you can see I'm just having fun with some of these colors. And I have some of those clouds there, and I'll bring in some whites to these clouds, and we'll add some more white clouds to the top of the sky too, but we're just playing with these oranges. Orange is peachy. Peachy is totally fine. Great. If anybody wants to make a peachy orange, I think that was a happy little accident there. But you can add a little bit of white, and you can easily kind of make these clouds, make these, the clouds in the sky a little more peachy too, if you wanted to. But if they're just lighter than this, don't worry. You can see actually a little bit of the lighter contrast underneath these kind of makes these clouds stand out a little bit. So just follow your intuition, play with your sky based on the colors you have. If anyone has specific questions, you're welcome to use a chat window. I'm happy to keep an eye on that for you. But we're going to keep plugging away. That's bringing in a little bit of the oranges. The water I'm a little less concerned about. I have just a little bit of orange down here. But you can really start to see your pictures coming to life, which is really quite fun. If you wanted to bring in any oranges kind of on the top part up here. I know Mary asked me to move my picture up a little bit, but I'm just gonna, you can add a little bit of like orangey clouds if you want up top, because we can add some white clouds up here too. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to. Sometimes in these classes, I love to experiment just to kind of show you just different possibilities. You can always kind of add this in later if you want, but I'm going to make some of these orangey clouds have white in them too. I'm just showing you what it's like to add in different colors. So you can see how I've added some additional clouds at the top. This is like a whitish, somebody was saying they had a peachy color. It's kind of a peachy orange. It kind of looks like yellow a little bit, but it's just a little bit of an accent. And I'm using just the tip of the brush the more you paint, this is one of the really cool things about painting and being an artist. And yes, we're all artists, no matter what you tell yourself, is you get to know your tools. And I'm paying attention as an artist to the tip of this brush only, paying attention to the tip of these bristles. So it's like you're becoming friends with the tip of your brush, and you're manipulating, getting to know how they want to operate, right? And I'm just ever so slightly just dancing around, and I'm saying, okay, I don't want to go too hard or too soft. And you get to know how to manipulate your brushes, and that's where you kind of become more comfortable playing with new techniques, this and that, because you're learning how to manipulate with the tools you have. And that's how I kind of came in and created some of these. Now, one tip that we'll be doing more of in a little bit is whenever you do a cloud, you can come in and add a brighter spot to the cloud. So you can see that happened kind of organically for me. At the top side of the clouds, or where you want to catch your eye, you can have it be a little bit brighter. So as an example, these clouds up here, they're like a yellowish orange. On the top side, it had a little bit of a lighter thing. You can see how it's softer on the bottom with color, and it's a little bit lighter on top. That will help draw out the depth of an object. So brighter spots and brighter spots and more shaded areas will bring objects to life. And we do those techniques in all of the classes that I teach, but this is just an example on how it's incorporated with a cloud. So we could easily spend, ladies and gents, 2 hours on tonight's class. Now, I'm just giving you bits and pieces of different details that you can kind of take and choose as you wish. So just go at your own speed and do what you're comfortable with. I'm looking down here at the bottom. I need to fill this in a little bit more down here. So I'm going to bring in a little bit more of this pink just to fill in this white space. So if you have any white space, think about how you can fill in that remaining white space. So for me, I had a little bit of an opening here. I'm going to slowly bring in my pinks into some of my oranges. It's kind of fun to start kind of smearing things together a little bit. It kind of helps with the transition of colors. I'm doing horizontal kind of scratchy brush strokes. I brought some of this pink right in on top of the orange down here, and it worked out fabulously. So if you need to switch, make sure you're paying attention down to the water reflection too. But bringing your pinks kind of in and over some of your oranges, if you need to put a little bit of water on your brush to help take that pink and blend it on top, really fun technique. And that just created a really nice reflection from the top to the bottom. All right. So our goal tonight is we'll try to have the class be within about an hour and a half. So, so everyone has time. And if you wanted to spend more time after that, we certainly can. So again, we were playing with our blues are in place. We did the yellow for the sun. We have yellow reflection above the horizon line. I did a brighter yellow sun, and I did a softer yellow around the sun. And then I did the softer yellow below the sun, kind of shaping this, not like a V-like form, but more narrow down here towards the bottom. And then once those yellows were in place, we brought in some of those oranges. So this is where the colors of our picture, it can really vary from one canvas to another. Now, we're not going to do any like water yet, water-like style on this water area down here. We'll do at the end. We'll do our sailboat positioning once the background is totally done. In the inspiration, there is clouds kind of on the left and the right. I did some really funky abstract ones. There's some white clouds in the sky. The other thing that there is there's more contrast here, some more reds and even purple-like colors near the horizon line, kind of on the outer skirts. So if anybody wants to get a little crazy with me, I might make like a purple, or you can bring in a red. So let me see here. It's always fun to be playful in these classes. I'm going to grab a little bit of blue and a little bit of red, and that will give me purple. I always love experimenting. It makes people sweat a little bit, but it's fun. And let's see here. This is really, really dark, so I'm going to take a little bit. So you can go for like a reddish purple maybe. I'm just having fun blending colors. This is very blue, so I'm going to add some more red. And sometimes when you take a paint class, you may just use the colors that you have, like blues and reds and this and that. I always love to just hold a little space for people to be playful and blend their own colors. And this is becoming like this is like a plum. And I can make it more red, have more of a red tone by adding more red to it, which is what I want to do. So it's a reddish purple. Beautiful. It's really, oh, that's better. It's actually a little bit lighter in person. There we go. And I'm just gonna, you don't need very much paint on your brush. So you can see I'm kind of dabbing my brush top and bottom, just kind of getting some of it off. And that's what that color looks like. It's really pretty. It's like it's a little lighter of a plum. I'm just gonna go for it. And I wiped quite a bit of it off that you can see here, right? So I have about a slight covering of paint on this brush. What I'm going to do is I just want to put a little bit of this at the horizon line. And I just did a little bit of a scratch of it, just a little bit. I'm going to dip my brush in a little water, take off some of the paint, and I'm just going to slowly kind of, I don't want to say fluff it upwards, but you can use your finger to smudge. We do a lot of finger smudging in these classes. So I did a little bit of a watery brush stroke, and I just did a little bit of a finger smudge, and look how cool that looks. It looks really neat. So I'm just doing a little bit of paint with water, and I'm doing some horizontal smudging upwards. And it creates a really nice contrasting horizon line. So I did a single brush stroke. I'm using my finger. You can always use a corner of a paper towel too if you don't want it. And I'm doing some kind of horizontal smudging. And if you want to bring in any more of this, you can use your finger to smudge. You could also use another brush too if you don't want to use your finger. But I'm just bringing in a little bit of extra contrast. Maybe I come up a little higher. I'm just doing a few small brush strokes, and I'm just doing some horizontal smudging with my finger. See that contrast? It's really cool. Now I'm staying away from this yellow area, but I'm going to do a little bit over here too. And I'm doing horizontal smudging with my finger. If you want to come into the yellow a little bit, you can, but I'm going to pretty much stay out of that area. See how nice the contrast, it brings your eye to that horizon line. This is where my horizon line isn't incredibly straight. You can use this to kind of help straighten out your horizon line if you need to. Now we could have easily just done like a single purple line here or a red line to say, hey, this is the horizon line. But this is another way of just playing with blending colors. And I might bring this down a little bit too. So just a little bit of this purple. I'm going to fade it down. Again, you can use your brush, just clean off a lot of the paint and just so it's watery. And you could do this smudging with your brush too. Just make sure you have a lot of the paint off. You just want it to be like a little watery. There, that's the brush technique. So I'm just doing a little bit of this soft purple kind of coming down. This is where the boat's going to be. So this is a little bit of a shaded area. So you see I'm creating a little bit of a shaded space over here. And this actually looks really cool. This is just water on my brush. I'm creating a nice shaded space. And you can see how the darker contrasting colors are starting to complement some of the brighter areas. So water's your friend. You don't need a ton of paint on your brush. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Just softly bring in a little bit of this watery purple in areas. I'm coming right on top of the pinks, right on top of the oranges. You can decide how much or how little of this that you want. You could even do some kind of wave-like texture with this dark purple if you wanted to, with some long horizontal brush strokes. That it all matches, right? So see how this lighter this is kind of like a watercolored purple now. You can kind of just do this on top a little bit, and you can kind of create some wave-like texture if you wanted to do that. So this is a good example of like art just kind of happening. I'm using this darker purple texture. I'm watering it down and I'm using this on top to create some long, kind of skinny, like horizontal waves. Which this is down here, it's watery. It's our water feature per se. So if you wanted to try that, you could. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. But this is just a good example of being open-minded and not too rigid during the creative process, because this is where like those happy little accidents happen. You know, it's like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, but I like it, right? And I have some, now it's turned into, there's a little bit of movement. There's a little bit of texture now on top of my water, which for me, I'm happy with that. Like I like that as an artist. But you do you. So everyone's going to be at different stages. Some of you still might be working on that dark purple. Some of you might be playing with your pinks. Just go at your own pace. We'll spend about another 12 minutes on our background, and then we'll use the remaining 30 minutes or so for the sailboat and for the water reflection. So if you need more time than that, feel free to take it, but that's what we're going to target. All right. And if we finish up our sky and everything before then, we'll jump into our sailboat next. But we want to make sure, I want to make sure you are happy with the background. I love what we have here. I love that I have a clear horizon line. If you need to add some darker colors like I did, so you can actually see your horizon line on the edges, I encourage you to do that. I think some of you, I don't see what anybody's painting, but I think some of you might have, it might just blend from like pink to pink basically. So add in like a little bit of red. If you wanted to add in more reds, you could. I'm fairly happy with my oranges and my purples and my pinks, so I may not touch mine anymore there, but you can. We'll add clouds here in just a minute. We'll do some white clouds. And for my white clouds, I like to create a little bit of a water wash. And what that is I have white paint right here. I have a little bit of water, and I'm making kind of like a milky substance. And I'm using this is like a small flat tip brush. And you can see on the tip of my brush, it looks like I've dipped it in a cup of milk. Milk-like consistency. You don't need it to be too wet or watery, but you can see here what that looks like. And you can use this paint to create your clouds. So for me, I created these here. I'm just going to add a little bit of white to these. I don't know where I'm going to put it. I think I'll probably just do it a little bit on top. And then I might add in a little bit more. You can do long and lean clouds. So long and narrow, you can do little patches of clouds. I'm going to tuck the white in here and there. But you can, so since this is lighter, you're going to add kind of more white paint on the tops of these clouds, but it's fairly light in consistency. You can use a brighter, whiter edge on the top side. So I'm kind of just doing a second coat on just this one so you can see the difference. See up here on the top how I have, it's a little bit more white, and on the bottom of these clouds, a little more transparent. So you can play in, and I'm doing all these long, skinny clouds. So they're kind of like long and lean versus like fluffy cumulus clouds, because these are in the distance. So the smaller you make something, it gives you an illusion that it's more kind of far away. So these clouds are a little bit further away. And I'm just dabbing with the tip of my brush. I am being mindful as an artist, paying attention to the top bristles. Remember how we were saying get to know our tools as an artist? I'm using white just to kind of bring in some of this, and I'm paying attention to the top bristles, and I'm bringing in some white clouds. Your white clouds may be whiter than mine, that's fine. I'm just doing little dabs, and I'm just doing long skinny clouds. You can do little ones, you can do big ones. They kind of look like mountains in the sky. It's all good. Just do your thing. I'm going to bring in a little bit of white. Again, the water is your friend. So I'm making sure I have some of that like white milky consistency. I'm going to bring in some white on the top side of these clouds down here. I'm just doing little gentle dabs where these orange clouds were, to kind of supplement what I already had. And I'm just gently and delicately bringing in a little bit of lightness. And this is, it could be level 2 for some of you, but I want to make sure I humor you and you to play with the cloud like, and they're kind of long and lean. You could do bigger clouds if you want. And again, that trick is to make these clouds come to life. You just do a little bit of a second coat to the top side of these clouds, kind of like you're doing a top outline. I hate to say an outline because I want you to apply it a little bit more naturally than that, but a little bit of a top outline to the top side of some of these clouds will really bring them to life. If you need to use a smaller brush, you can. But see how I did a little bit of extra white? These are getting very dreamlike over here. This usually doesn't happen, I swear. There's something magical in the air over here. But I'm just really being in the moment and I'm not overthinking it. So just do what feels right for you. And I'm just going to do as much as I want, okay? I don't always do this many clouds. So some of you may have taken my classes before. I don't always do this many. I'm just in the zone and just enjoying the process, okay? That's all I want you to do. Again, we're so grateful that we're here tonight and that AARP New Hampshire is holding this space for us. So again, a big thanks to our friends at AARP New Hampshire for having us. We would not be here without their support. They know how important this is for you to settle in and take some time for yourself. And we're grateful to be a part of that. And we're so glad that you're here. So you're going to get to a point you're going to be happy with your clouds. Just stop whenever you're ready. If you want to keep playing with them after, you can. That's totally fine. You can also stop and think about it too. Let's be honest. Okay. You can, if you want to stop and think about your clouds, if you have a cup of tea next to you, be sure you're drinking your tea. You can take your white paint and you can actually do some sun accents. So I'm going to make my sun a little bit whiter to brighten it up. So I might do a little bit of white on the inside of my sun, and I'm going to do some white reflection on my water. And if you want to use a smaller brush, you can. I'm just using the tip of this brush because I've become friends with my brush, and I'm learning to manipulate this brush. And I'm adding a little bit of white, kind of soft lines. And there's with water, kind of following down, and I'm just dancing down left to right, kind of like zigzagging back and forth. And you can't even see it. It's so hard because mine is so light, but I basically was taking the tip of my brush. It's so hard to see because it's actually very light in person too. And I was just kind of going with the tip of this brush with a few bristles and going to the left and coming back to the right, going to the left and just dabbing, kind of creating a little bit of this like soft water reflection. So we're going to do our sailboat next, but I want everybody to take the next 5 minutes. I want you to be happy with your background. So that is your goal, is I want you to finish up your background. I might do a little bit, like I did a little streak of a white over here underneath that darker color. If I don't like that, I can always change it. But we'll leave it for right now. I might make it dark again. I want you to play with your water reflection. We'll do a little bit more water reflection, but play with a little bit there if you wanted to. If there's any questions, let me know. You could add a little bit of extra white, a watery white to the tops of your clouds to really make them stand out. But take the next 4 minutes to, I want you to be happy with your sky. I hope everybody's having fun. Be sure to check out those resources that our AARP New Hampshire friends have posted and shared with us. And if you need to spend more time in one area or another, you have access to that recording. So there's no pressure to do this or that right now. You can always come back in and make some modifications. Play with your clouds some more. or just be happy with what you have. We're here to have fun, but I'm here to show you lots of different things. All right. So I'll keep an eye on the clock. Everyone has, we have 3 minutes just to finish up our background. So take a look around, see what else you may want to add and where. I'm going to play with a little bit more of like a white water reflection on the water area down below. You can use a small brush or you could use the same brush you're using. And again, I do water reflections with a really soft hand. With acrylic paints, I'm not sure what folks are using tonight, but with acrylic paints, they dry really quickly. So it's kind of fun to do different layers of one on top of the other. It is definitely helpful if you want to do any water reflections using a smaller brush. Using the tip of it just gives you a little bit more control, especially if you want like more clear lines. I guess it depends on the texture of the water that you want. If you have a rough sea or if you have a calm presence, you can choose. We will be adding some shading underneath our boat. So we'll be doing our boat next. And we'll be sketching our boat. I may grab a Sharpie. Do not grab a Sharpie at home. So you can see my boat. The pencil's probably not going to show up very well. So I'll use a Sharpie to be brave. All right, that one works. As I sketch my boat, so you can actually see the object on my picture. Okay. So in the next minute or two, we'll transition to doing the boat itself. So take a deep breath. If you need to take a quick break, you certainly may. I do have a straight edge here for the sails. I'll talk through some of the boat characteristics as we transition to that step. This boat is not very wide. It's probably 2 to 4 inches wide, 3 to 4 or 5 inches wide based on how big your picture is. But these tall sails, tall, skinny sails. If you don't want 4 sails like this inspiration has, you could just do 2 sails. You could do 1 sail. You can choose, but they're going to be tall and they're going to be really narrow. The more narrow your sail, the better, because you can always make a narrow sail wider, but it's really difficult to make a wide sail more narrow. See what I'm saying there? So what we're going to do is we'll sketch the boat, and I may sketch it with a pencil first and then outline it with a Sharpie. So I like the shape and the placement and the positioning, and then we'll fill that in together. Okay. So if you have a pencil at home, great. If you don't have a pencil, you can use any paint color that you want to paint the boat. The boat for me is going to be like a lighter color. The sails are like a pink color, which is really fun. So we'll see. You can do your sails any color you want. I might do, some darker areas too. But let's talk about the positioning of the boat as our next step, and we'll slowly transition. So the positioning of the boat is in the water. So we all know that this is the horizon line here, and my boat is going to be positioned on the left. We want the boat to be entirely in the water. That means the back of the boat needs to be in the water and the front of the boat needs to be in the water. Now I could just do a flat boat. I could give it a 3D perspective. I could give it just a 2D perspective. My boat's going to have a little bit of an angle. The right side of the boat is going to be more narrow. The left side of the boat is going to be taller. So one of the things we can do is figure out where we want the bottom of the boat to be. So I'm going to come in right about here, and I'm going to do, it's kind of a diagonal line for the bottom of the boat. But you can see that pencil. And I'll zoom down a little bit with my camera so you can see this. There we go. So I did a little bit of a diagonal. What I'm planning is that the back of the boat is going to be here, narrow in height. And I'm keeping the front of the boat kind of away from the edge. So maybe I'll put the front of the boat here. And it's going to kind of bow out a little bit and then come in. But the bottom of the boat is on a little bit of an angle there, okay? And then you can kind of connect your boat on the top. So we want the top of the boat to be, and this angle is a little too dramatic, so you can change your angle if you need to. Top of the boat, the left side of the boat is a little bit more wider, taller, and then the right side of the boat is more narrow. See where we're going here? We're going to paint this in, but you can see kind of where we are. And the bottom can be a little more rounded if you want to. We can always paint that in too. So just basic shape. This is the boat. It's kind of sailing visually off to the left side of the page. So this is where once you have a basic boat shape in, so narrow on the right, wider on the left, you can add in your sails. Now, there's going to be 2 in the middle and then kind of 1 on the left side. So I'm going to do 3 sails. So I have a flat edge here. You're going to do 2 masts. So 1 and 2, kind of, you can do them centered in the boat if you want. So 2 poles kind of going up centered. So I'm just going to find the center of the boat, and they can have a little bit of space, and just make sure that this ruler is straight. And I'm going to go up quite a bit. So I'm going to go up almost like 2 inches from the top. This is a tall sail. And I'm going to stagger these a little bit. So maybe that mast, see that mast, how it's so tall? I'm going to bring this. If you don't want to do them these tall, you don't have to. The inspiration has them this tall. I think they're really dramatic. And then, so I'm going to do 1 not high. The one next to it's going to be a little more narrow, or sorry, a little shorter. So let's see. I'm going to do this one. It's only going to come up to like here, maybe.
Megan,
Yes.
someone is saying she using watercolor, so she can't leave the pencil marks, and she just wants a suggestion of what.
Yeah. So if you could do a pencil mark and do like a light erase. If you don't want to do a pencil, you could use your watercolor brush and just do like a purple or, you know, a blue for that line, for that mask. That's totally fine. No big deal. So I have 2 sails, and then I'm going to have another that's going to kind of come off at an angle. So I have 2, these are 2 masts. So these are 2 poles. I'm going to put the sails off of these. I'm going to do 1 more kind of pole. It's going to be kind of an angle. So if I turn this, it's going to be a little higher, and it's going to come off the front of the boat. So the sail, and I'll use my pencil here so you can see it. The sail is going to come off, and it's going to kind of hook right here. So I did a little dot. And I'm going to use my ruler. I don't even need the ruler. I guess, yeah, I guess the ruler would be okay. This has a little bit of an angle to it. And it's going to kind of come to the same height as the taller one on the other end. And you want them to be fairly close to one another, just kind of like they're all meeting. You don't want this flying off into outer space. So you kind of want to bring it into the right. So they're kind of like getting to know each other here. There. And that kind of gives you the angle. See that gave us our angle for that sail. Now it kind of looks like a sailboat a little bit, because you can see what we're going to do. You can use your pencil and just give it a little bit of a sail. Look at that. And you could just use your imagination. This is where you may want to do a little bit of sketching. So imagine these original lines that we did are the poles, right? And I am not a person who sails. So people who sail are probably laughing at me right now without the wrong terminology here. And you can use little pencil lines for like holding the sails on board, you know. But the poles are these pencil lines. Then you can use your pencil, and you don't have to use your pencil if you want to, but we're going to do long and narrow sails that are going to be off of these poles. See that? So I'm doing really skinny at the top, and then as I get closer to the bottom, they're getting a little wider. And see that kind of looks like a sailboat now. And you can just, and we'll come in with our paint in just a minute, but this is just you being playful of like how big you want things, where you want to put things. So you can see it's actually starting to look like a boat now. Once you have your sails in place, you can paint them. Imagine that. So I'm gonna stop drawing. I see a boat and I see sails. I'm just gonna come in. I'm gonna start with a light pink and let's see what the heck happens. You want to use a small brush of choice. I'm just gonna use light pink. If I don't like this, ladies and gents, guess what? I can change it. But I'm gonna use light pink and I'm just gonna paint these sails with a really soft, steady hand, a light pink, just to see what happens. Now I have a whole bunch of water on this brush, so, well, maybe not. It's not too bad. If you want to do light yellow sails, you could do light yellow sails. I'm going to do light pink, and then I can always change it or add different tones if I want to. My paint is covering the pencil lines. If you're worried about your pencil lines not being covered up, you could do a soft erase on those pencil lines if you need to. So there's a soft pink sail. I don't hate it, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to fill in each of these sails. You're painting right over your sky, right? Because you're now painting on an object. This is where you can determine how wide or how tall you want your sails to be. If you need to make these taller, you make them taller. No big deal. If you want to make them wider, make them wider. But you see how mine are nice and tall and narrow. I've never used this much light pink in a class before, but it's working. So any light color, you could do light blue here. It's just going to stand out with the contrasting background. This color also is it's already in the painting. So that's why it looks natural because it's already in the color palette that we've used. These sails can be boxy. They can have straight edges and sharp corners. So find a brush that works for you. Take your time. And my boat might be like an orange. I don't know. I'm just considering what are my options maybe here. Like a creamsicle orange. I'm not sure. See, I'm gonna paint my boat. See. I'm gonna play with the colors for the boat. I'm gonna start filling in the boat as a single color too. I'm not sure what I want it to be yet. So I'm using like oranges just to see what I would like. Orange is actually really nice. It could be a little lighter on top and a little bit more of a rich orange on the bottom. So that's a little bit of shading. We'll do some shading techniques. So this is kind of like a peachy orange for the boat itself, which matches, right? If you want to just do a white boat, you could do a white boat. I like the pencil lines. They kind of work for my boat structure. So a little bit of shading if you wanted to do a little bit of more of lightness in the middle of the boat, a little bit more of like a darker contrasting orange on the front of the boat. You can bring in some shading elements. So the left of the boat could be a little bit darker. Maybe the back is a little bit darker. You can play with how you want to fill this in. There's no right or wrong here on how you want to fill in your boat. Just find a color that you like. That's probably the most important thing. We'll keep things easy with our boat here. And we will do and the easiest thing to do for a depth for your boat is just doing a darker line on the left side of the boat. If you want to add any shading at all, that full left side, just add in a darker line. So Marie, I'm using orange. I did a darker orange over here on the left side. So I'll just keep it easy and I'll do shading in that way. So see how I did a little bit of a darker line on the left side. I can even make it a little darker just to show you the contrast. So paint your boat a color, any color you wish, and just do a darker line on that left side of the boat. And you can kind of blend it in if you wish. And then we'll do a stripe on our boat after. Fun. And I'm letting my my sails dry. We'll do a little bit of a contrast with our sails too in just a minute. You could do a darker element for our sails. So for me, I did pink sails and I did like an orangey boat. And my contrasting color for my depth was a darker orange for this tip of the boat. So you can see it's darker over here, which gives my boat some depth. I'm gonna do the same thing for the pink sails. So I'm gonna find just a little bit darker of a shade of this pink. So for me, I'm just adding a little bit more red to it. And this is an easy technique that anybody can do. Maybe pick the left or the right side of any of these sails and just do a line down. So I'm just gonna do the left side of the sail. And this is easy. A single line down is a very simple approach to give it a little bit of depth. You can add a little water to this if you want to make it a little more blended. But I'm just doing a single line down, straight, firm line if you can for these sails. Sailboats visually like structure. So there's a dark line down. If you don't want to see the line, you could take, like, you could clean off your brush really quick. And with a little bit of water on your brush, you can kind of blend it in a little bit. Acrylic dries pretty quickly, so I might have missed my window, but you can kind of blend it in so it's a little softer. Or you could bring in some pink and soften over that. So I'm going to do a little bit of this darker color on the left side of each of these sails for contrast. And I'm using the tip of the brush. This is a really small brush. Not too fancy small, but. And anywhere you want to add, like if you want to do another line, this is like a crease in the sail. So you could do a crease in the sail for like an extra contrast, you could do that. So anywhere you want to kind of create depth or a shadow per se, this darker color is the shadow on the sails. And I'm just keeping it straightforward and easy. And I could just leave it as that, like I really could. If you wanted to bring in other colors, like if I wanted to bring in a little bit of yellow and oranges, like it's reflecting off of the water, I could bring in some like oranges and yellows on the side of the sail. I'm just having fun and just experimenting. If I don't like this, guess what? I can paint right over it. But this is maybe like the sun reflecting off of some of this. This is just me being crazy and experimental. So I added a little bit of, I'll bring this a little closer. I added a little bit of oranges to some of these, the sides of the sails, just because, hey, why not? And if I don't like any of this, guess what? I can take this pink and cover some of it up. So this is the beauty of art and just kind of thinking outside of the box and experimenting. This is the sun and the brightness kind of reflecting off of the sails. In the inspiration, it has 4 sails. I only did 3, which for me is fine. There are like darker poles in contrast for these sails. You would need a really tiny brush to accomplish that. A couple options. You could use a black ink pen, or you could use the tip of a Sharpie to do some like outlining for the poles. If folks want to see that, I am an advocate of using mixed media, using different types of products to bring your picture to life in any way that you want. You don't always have to do strict paint. You could do paint and this and that. So I could use either a Sharpie or like an ink pen to kind of create a line on the side of these as like a dark pole. And I think that will really make our boat stand out and jump out. Let me see what this pen looks like. I'm gonna use my Sharpie because that pen is terrible. This Sharpie has a pretty good tip on it. I'm gonna test my Sharpie first by, if anybody has a really tiny brush tip, you could do this with a brush tip, but I'm gonna just do a small line at the top of the boat first to highlight the top of the boat. So see how I just did a black line there? I'm going to use this with a steady hand, and I'm going to kind of connect these down. So I'm using this Sharpie, and it's very dark, which is fine. it's fine for right now. But I'm just going to, on the left side of these poles, I'm going to do a straight line. This is where you're going to be really careful and slow. So I'm doing the pole coming down. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to. So I am just showing you what it's, if you wanted to take another step. A steady hand can be hard. I acknowledge that. And I'm just gonna probably go up just about halfway with this one. And I'm going really light with the Sharpie, and I have a few gaps here and there, and that's okay. So you can see I did that just to kind of ground. I'm also going to do a line at the bottom of the boat in the water. And maybe on the back side of the boat. I'm not going to do a line on the front because I want the front to be brighter. Now I can always soften the boat with like and make it brighter. Since I have a black Sharpie, I am going to do a black stripe on the boat itself as like a little bit of a design detail. And if this is too dark for me, I can always let the Sharpie dry and I can come back and soften it with paint. Again, there's no right or wrong way of like doing these classes and painting something. It's just about being open to how you get there. So I'm just going to come in and just do some modifications. I'm going to make the front of the boat a little darker again. I might soften this black line a little bit with a little bit of paint. Just do what feels right for you. Okay. I could easily put a little pink over some of the black to soften it, but you all get the picture, right? So the Sharpie is really dark, but you at least get kind of where we're going. It is important that we add a little shade on the underside of the boat. Right now it looks a little awkward. It's like standing out quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and grab some of that purple and we're going to add some shade on the bottom of this. So I have that dark purple on my brush and just under the bottom of it, I'm going to add a little bit of this dark purple to kind of ground this in the water. Look at that. And it adds a little bit of shade on the underside. It's like it's coming through. Actually moving now, right? It has a place, or it's just sitting there. Maybe it's watching the fireworks somewhere, right? So you can come in and you can add a shade. I'm adding a little bit of the shade up to the top here behind the boat too. Okay, so these are all the choices that you can make. I'm adding a little bit more shade over here. So you can decide how much you want to add and where, but you can see how that really added some nice contrast. Now there is shadows. We'll do a little bit of shadowing for the sails too. So we're doing good on time. We have, we'll try to wrap up in the next 10 minutes just to be mindful of some folks, but I'll show you what a little bit of shadowing looks like. I have a little bit of this purple. I have a little bit of water too. Now this could be scary for some of you, but I'm just going to be bold. I'm going to add in some shadows here on the water of the sails. I'm just kind of doing left, right, left, right. You could do vertical down. I might just do some smudging with my finger. But they're kind of long and lead. So it's kind of reflecting those tall, skinny sails into the water. And we'll put some water crests over these. So like some actual white water and some darker blues on top of these. But if you wanted to add it in any of this purple shading on your water for your sails, you could. Again, I'm going to put some water movement on top of these so it looks more natural. And I'm using water on my brush. This is not just all paint. And you can use your finger to kind of do some swiping. I know it can be scary to paint on something that you have just done. So I acknowledge that could be a little scary for some of you. No big deal. Do what you're comfortable with. And then you can easily, to make it look like it's actually on the water, you can put a little bit of this white paint or even like a light purple at the tip of your brush, and you can do some more of these like water lines on top. So I'm going to use some more contrasting white just to show you what it looks like. And there's actually a lot of darker blue contrasting too. So I'll do a little bit of dark blue contrasting. But I'm just doing some horizontal kind of water lines on top. And this is some of the final details. So I hope you're all enjoying tonight's class. I think this came out so beautifully. I'm so excited to hear how it went for everyone. But I'm just doing a few so I'm doing white lines and I'm using just the tip of this brush. I'm going to do dark and light lines. So I'm going to do some contrast. So I'm going to do some of this white and I'm just dancing across slow, like I'm running a feather under the tip of somebody's nose. See how it covered up some of the purple sails? It's good. That's what we wanted. So I'm going to do just enough. So I'm happy with this. And then there is some darker contrasting blues that I'm going to add as well. For a little bit of shade, a little shadow in the waves. You could keep it bright and light and not do any darker blues. I'm just going to grab a little bit of this cobalt with the same brush, and I'm going to do some darker blues as well. Now you can have water on your brush. You can experiment with a little water, no water. A little water goes a long way. You may just be like, Megan, I'm really happy with what I have, and I don't really want to mess it up. I totally acknowledge that as well. I'm just adding a little bit of blue. Now, if you don't like something, you can always take the corner of a paper towel, dip it in your water cup. So this blue is a little dark for me. You can kind of smudge it with a corner of a paper towel and see how it's softened that. So a little paper towel with a little water, you can kind of smudge something off. So some of this blue was a little dark, but look at that, with a little water and a paper towel, you can kind of, I softened it pretty quickly. And then it just is a little bit more subtle. So for me, that's what I needed. That means you just maybe need a little bit more water on your brush and a little less paint pigment, right? But for me, I don't want to do too much. I really like where I'm at. And I know some of this blending and some of this water techniques, these can get pretty complicated pretty quickly. But what I wanted to highlight is like, we did these background colors first, right? With the blues and the pinks and the oranges, that's all our base colors. So in these classes, we always like to acknowledge that we're going to do more on top to bring this picture to life. Awesome. I hope that everybody's enjoyed this so far. If there's any questions, please let me know. But it's about adding more as you go, but just being open-minded to what that could be and just going at your own pace as you explore what those things are. Sometimes folks are like, well, I don't know what more to do, right? And that's why sometimes being a part of these classes is I can nudge you to try new things for you to consider, right? Because as an artist, you're in charge. I'm just here to support you along the way. I know I can't come over and fix anything. Sorry. You got this. I can coach you from Vermont.
Megan, we have a question.
Sure.
Someone wants to know if you think a damp paper towel can wash her painting away.
So I just did that, and I have a little bit of water, and I smudged away some of the blue. So I think it's based on like how hard you like try smudging something off. I did blue on top of like my pinks on my background. And because my blue paint was still kind of wet, I was able to smudge some of it off. If you like do like go back and forth really, really hard, you'll probably take more paint away. So it's all about how much pressure you use, really. But I think it's worth a try. So this is where you can do any final touches. You can add more whites on your sunset. I'm so pleased that I've made it throughout tonight's class without my 4-week-old son needing me. So I applaud that. But I'm gonna put a little bit more white paint here with my sunset. I'm gonna put a little bit more whites coming through. The white will really create some nice brightness. Maybe some more white waves, just crusting. But do any finishing touches. You're welcome to keep painting, even though tonight's class may wrap up, 7:30 or so. Don't worry, you're welcome to keep painting on your end. But most importantly, I want to thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed this. I will put my contact information out. I'll show this. If anybody wants to share your artwork with me, this is my contact info. If you want to take a picture of this with your phone, if you need any help with follow-up tips on how to finish something up or tweak something, or Megan, I don't like this, please let me know. Please let me know. I'm happy to help you. But my email is megan@paintandsipbt.com. So you're welcome to send me an email with any questions, but also I'd love to see your artwork. Many of you email me or send me a picture of your painting after class, which I always love seeing. And I can tell you that our friends at AARP New Hampshire always love seeing your work too. So that's my contact info. If you want to take a quick picture or a screenshot of that, feel free to do that. But most importantly, I want to thank everyone for being here. Hope you enjoyed yourself. Yeah, and our next class is we're taking a break. AARP New Hampshire is taking a break for the paint classes, sponsored paint classes for July. Oh, we're in June, July, August, and our next class is in September. So you can keep an eye out towards the end of the summer for signups for a September 11th class. So it's Wednesday, September 11th. So you can save the date. It'll be 6 o'clock again. And I would love to see you, but bring a friend for sure. I hope everyone enjoyed this. We could keep going, which I'm sure you can acknowledge and see with regards to the level of detail. We can easily spend another hour on this inspiration, but it's always fun to kind of recognize where we're at and appreciate this beautiful scene for what it has to offer. But thank you all so much for being here. I'll hang out for a couple more minutes. If there's anybody I can help, please feel free to post it in the chat. Otherwise, you're welcome to continue working at home and enjoy the process. And a big thanks to Mary and Jill for being with us tonight as our AARP New Hampshire volunteers. We would not be here without their support.
Oh, thank you, Megan. I think we're getting a lot of thank yous, and everybody seemed to have enjoyed this class.
Wonderful. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. It's always great seeing new folks as well as returning patrons that continue to enjoy this AARP Vermont programming. AARP programming. Absolutely. And again, don't hesitate to reach out if there's any follow-up questions. I'm here to support everyone. I'm just doing a little bit of a dark edge on the side of these sails just to kind of solidify their shape. You could make your sails fancy, you could put stripes on your sails, all the things. But I want to thank you everyone. Lots of comments and thanks in the chat window. I hope everyone has a great rest of your night and enjoying these warm summer months. Please reach out if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thank you, everyone. I am going to stop the recording now.